there is a difference in the way certain people modulate frequencies, and there are so many variations that it's difficult to put labels on any of them. Empaths are truly in an in-between and special stage of development. But how do they differ from sympaths and those who practice compassion? Empaths are those with more sensitive abilities to apprehend the mental or emotional states of others. Very sensitive empaths can experience empathy burnout as well as many other conditions. They are in between sympaths and others who practice compassion. Sympaths relate to the pity and sorrow of others' misfortunes but have no real need to express beyond that. Sympaths have a special gift because they can act more as catalysts than empaths. They can change something without changing themselves because their outwards expression is limited. This often makes them good healers in many circumstances. Empaths are more limited in this respect because pain often overrides their ability to heal and act as catalysts for others. They end up resisting more pain and consequently developing coping mechanisms to internalize it. The one who practices compassion is all about love in action. They have the view of all perspectives and they bring them together as one. A sympath, an empath and one who practices compassion all observe a cat chasing down and killing a mouse. The sympath does not take in the pain. They have some pity for the misfortune of the mouse but have no need to express beyond that. The empath takes in the pain and the misfortune and wants to end all suffering for other mice at the expense of cats. The one who practices compassion moves beyond the pain and misfortune and recognizes the benevolence, sees the movement of nature and the mutual exchange of love between the cat and mouse in reciprocity. Do you see the difference? There are far too many empaths that remain stuck in this in-between stage of protection and safety because that's what they have been taught by. For some it takes decades. Especially if they persist with the same assumptions of needing protection, shielding a fear of any intrusive energy, all of which are non-existent to those who practice compassion. A compassionate person stands in the power and they do not require any external object other than themselves to clear a room. They are the crystal, they are the amulet, they are the talisman, they are the frequency tool, they are the cleanser. They are everything that many empaths today rely on as objects outside of themselves to give the power away to something other than themselves in the guise of protection. There is no linear progression to this process. It's not that a sympath becomes an empath and then compassionate. Not at all. In fact, a person who is compassionate can dive into empathy and completely forget compassion itself. It also doesn't mean a sympath can't be compassionate, but it's more about where our strengths lie. And the goal is not to necessarily reach compassion as a nirvana. There is no goal. We are where we need to be. So if you find peace as a sympath, so be it. If you find peace in compassion, so be it. And if you feel comfortable with the range of sensitivities as an empath, even if it is a transitory stage, that is fine as well. It's about how do we feel where we are. Are we being drained where we are? It's about where do we place our focus, and that is where we can see the sameness, uniqueness and differences, and none are better than the other. The reality is, the transition is designed to be temporary, not long-term. The ones who persist in the empathy stage without progressing to compassion will hold frequencies that build harmonics into disease and dysfunction, seeing themselves as victims of their own doing. It can be a very destructive path for many due to the lack of observing and integrating multiple perspectives of love. They drown themselves in the default pain, unable to move forward because it is a safer place for the empath to explore. Beyond that can be far too scary, that is, until they learn to embrace what they have always resisted. Some will need this to move past it, and for others it will progress. The reason there are so many very sensitive empaths at this moment is because of the transition, the shift. They hold a frequency set that is strongly tied to duality, and it prevents them from seeing past the right-wrong paradigm in the process. By the same token, they are among the few who can see the paradigm best when they move out of this stage towards compassion. The empath can rise quickly to compassion and vibrate at very high levels that the average person cannot easily attain. For that is that they feel pain to a greater extent than the average, and they dive deeper into the realms of darkness, pain and suffering. So there is a type of potential energy stored that can become tremendous kinetic energy on the other side. It's like a snowball rolling down a steep hill that grows bigger and moves faster. It can contract and become destructive internally, or expand and move to higher levels of awareness. That's the kind of energy an empath can emit once they transition all the fear, pain, suffering and the need to save the world to one of love and compassion. And knowing that all is well and all ends well regardless of what is felt in that space. The empath finds the true power, and it is one that will transform them to a place where they can stand in the power rather than around it.